This is a Celebration 125 podcast.
So, Bruce Maclean. Bruce, I've been checking the memories book, the history of the District of Kent, and in that book, it says that you were born in Mission in '56, but your dad was born, Jim Maclean, was born in Lethbridge in 1921. You want to give us a bit of that history there?
My father's father, my grandfather, was an orphan. And I think he was orphaned with, and I don't have the complete details, I think two other brothers, but I never really knew that side of the family. But anyways, they were sent to Alberta, to Lethbridge, when they were young, grew up there. He stayed there. Both my grandfathers were veterans of World War I. He worked in the post office. My grandmother had a boarding house. Their home was a boarding house, and that's they were really, especially her. She was a very frugal Scottish lady. Made the most of what they had. My father was raised there. In World War II, he went away, was a pilot during the Second World War. And the funny thing is, my mother, she was from Viking, Alberta. She became a registered nurse in Edmonton she wanted to become a flight attendant. You had to become a registered nurse. So her first posting was to Lethbridge. And this was before my dad came home from the war. She got posted there, and she was looking for a place to stay, and she stayed in my grandmother's boarding house. My dad came home from the war, and the rest is history there. They eventually moved to Vancouver Island, where my father went into partnership with my uncle on a hotel in Cumberland on Vancouver Island. That hotel burned down. Meanwhile, my uncle had purchased another hotel, which was the Sasquatch Inn, which was just a few cabins, separate building for a cafe, the building where the beer parlor was located. That burned down in 1952. So my uncle asked my dad, because he had already bought the Sasquatch Inn, if he wanted to be partners in that one. So my dad became partners in the Sasquatch Inn. It opened in '54. And the reason my uncle bought the Sasquatch Inn is because that they were going to be building the Harrison River Bridge from 1954 to 1956. They also redid the highway over Mount Woodside, the highway along the shore of Harrison Bay, there where all those bluffs are. So there was a lot of construction going on there for a couple of years. When that was all open, my uncle, who is a real businessman, he just wanted to sell the hotel and move on to something else. My father had grown to like the area, and he said, I want to stay here with my family. He stayed eventually. I and my brothers and sisters, my uncle and my aunt were divorced. My aunt was my father's sister. They were divorced in the 80s. And in 1989, my brothers and sisters and I purchased her half of the hotel. And I've been running it ever since.
Leading up to you taking it over and everything, the Sasquatch Inn and Pub, you took a hospitality or hotel management course, didn't you?
I went to BCIT and took hospitality and tourism administration.
I have to ask you, you may already know this, you may even know him, the late Del Richards, a band leader in Vancouver. He for a time when big bands in the 60s and so on weren't as popular, so he wasn't getting a lot of work, he thought he'd take a hospitality or hotel management course as well. Did you ever cross paths with Del Richards?
No, but I know the name. Yeah, I went to BCIT from 79 to 81. Mm-hmm. After that, I worked at the Harrison Hotel in several different positions between 81 and 86. I worked in Whistler for a few years. And then in 1986, my dad had a fairly severe stroke.
So there's a lot of history there. I mean, it's been around for a long time in various shapes and forms. Could you tell us a bit about the rebuild after a fire? Or there was a rebuild anyway, wasn't there, for a while?
Well, other than the 54 rebuild of the original beer parlor burned down, nothing really happened with the place until 1990. In 1990, we decided to renovate the beer parlor and turn it into a pub. And most of what you see when you go in there now, like all the oak picture rail, the wainscoting, the oak back bar, the bar itself was all done in 1990. And that was pretty much it until 2004 when we did the exterior of the hotel and put the peaked roof on and put the liquor store in. And then again, the next renovation after that was 4 years ago now when we redid all our guest rooms.
Would it be fair to say that the Sasquatch Inn, the pub part of it, is the biggest money generator, or would it be the liquor store and the pub?
Well, at one time it was, but it's pretty much evenly split between the liquor store and the pub.
Mm-hmm.
The margins are higher in the pub, of course, but the room contributes quite a bit to our revenue as well, especially during COVID here right now. I mean, we had a lot of guests and so many people in BC staying within BC.
Well, it's nice to hear there's a bit of a positive out of all this pandemic, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Now, your dad, Jim Maclean, you have a memorial or an annual golf tournament. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, we decided, my wife, that was my wife's idea. I can't even tell you how many we've had now. I think it's 20. Of course, we couldn't have it last year, and I know we'll be able to have it this year. We'll see. She wanted to have a golf tournament to raise for the Heart and Stroke Foundation, which is, my father died of heart disease. So we've been having that for 20 years. And I think Heart and Stroke Foundation sent her a letter saying how much she'd raised over the years, but it's well over $100,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you also have a number of, one that I can think of, but you have show and shine car shows there.
You know, it's not a car show. It's mostly a bike show.
Okay.
We do get a lot of hot rods. We get a lot of motorcycles. But again, this was driven by, it was originally started by one of my staff. Thought that there were so many different pubs having show and shines, which are really popular with motorcycle enthusiasts, that we would like to try one. And I think that is we're up to about 15 or 16 motorcycle canceled last year. And I guarantee it will not happen this year because we get well over 1,000 people there. And that's for St. Jack Ranch, which is a facility on State Lake for disabled children. That's a big event. Like I said, we get, not all at once, but all at once you might see 200 or 300 motorcycles there, and there is probably up to close to 1,000 over the course of the day.
You certainly see a lot of bikes there on a Sunday afternoon.
We've got the big parking lot there. I might also add that I'm not sure if you saw that on any of the histories there, but one of the big influences my father had when he came there in the 50s was sponsoring the local native soccer team in Chehalis. Well, there wasn't just boys from Chehalis there. They're also from Gowland. A couple that came down. One guy would drive down all the way from Mount Kirby and Pemberton. They went on, and one year went to the BC quarterfinals, only to lose to a team from Vancouver called Danubio, which was a Croatian team. The Vancouver province did a full-page spread on this Indian soccer team from the wilds of the Fraser Valley. Yeah. And he became very well respected with the local First Nations because of his sponsorship of those teams.
That's a good news story right there, isn't it?
Yeah, he's respected in that area.
Yeah, well, it's one of those beautiful locations by the Harrison River and something else. It really is.
For 22 years in Mission with my wife, we sold our house in September. We're building a home in Eagle Point beside the Sandpiper Golf Course. And to me, it's just moving home, and I can't wait.
I hear ya. Okay, Bruce, well, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate that.